Okay, I'm going to start with by reading a couple of poems. They're meant to be humorous and serious. We'll see how it all turns out. First one is called Deeply Horizontal. They're coming faster than you think, so much like us, but better in so many ways. I guess the world is flatter now, more deeply horizontal. Put a smile on it. I mean, they're so much more efficient, less argumentative, happier, bigger by augmentation. I must say, these really are you, unless they're really me. Definitely more logical and lovable, kinder, more in control of every detail. I know I'm like so branded by my likes. Me too. So tattoo me. They're really great in conversation too, because there's no conflict. Personally, I prefer a screen between, definitely less face to face, more recorded real time. With them, there's just fewer mistakes, safer risk taking, less to go wrong. When can you live in a winner's second life? Someone who can represent you better than yourself. I'm talking image control. More options, more choices, less to look up, less to do. They'll do it for you, and they'll never die. Neither will you. I'll take perfect every time. That was deeply horizontal. Wait to the next one. Imagine this is your 10-year-old child. Second Life. It's not a game anymore. It's a second life with characters you've dressed up to look the part. It's a simulated world that keeps changing as you change from suspect to detective, hawk to dove, butterfly to praying mantis. We're talking a screen between world you can control with a simple click of the cursor. A place you can go with people you know, whom you've created to be your friends to the end, your admirers and lovers who will do anything for you, who will never leave you, who will love you unconditionally, or they die. Because that's the way you program them. Just the way you've created your enemies, rats in evening gowns, hyenas in tuxedos that can squash underfoot. You can squash underfoot like bugs if they don't behave or embarrass you in public. It's a world where you can change your face, your costume, your hair, your sex, your race. You can even be whomever you want to be, whenever you want, because it's your own personal second life. You make the rules and can spend as much money and time there as you want and never grow bored or old. No one can hurt you there or they die. It's a world where everything makes sense. It's a world that caters to your every whim, your every desire. It's a world you can be happy in all the time. Why would you ever want to leave? Where would you go? So, thank you.
Well, I don't know whether I can follow that. I'll say up front that being a cell physiologist, I find AI extraordinarily exciting because it's going to bring so much data in that's going to be put together in ways where we could never do as a, our computational ability is just not there, even if you've got 1,000 scientists working together. But on the other hand, I'm very concerned about our social relationships. I'm very concerned about the use of language. I'm very concerned about our plasticity, meaning our ability, our neurons' ability to change with challenge, with problem solving. So our cognitive abilities are going to be influenced, I think, heavily by machines. Machines will do, like Charles said, most things better than us. We'll become reliant on our robots, our agents, and I'm wondering because, neurons are, they don't replicate necessarily, right? But their synapses are incredibly dynamic. And so the question becomes, if they're not challenged, meaning if our neurons, our networks, our patterns of thinking are not involved in the process as we once were, because who wouldn't get lazy? You just put some information in. I mean, those at the top layer are still going to be thinking heavily because they got to be programming data in. But what about us as people who are just populating the earth? I worry about that. I worry about the fact that my nieces, I can't communicate with them except through text. I find that unbearable, actually. And AI is extraordinarily efficient. And we as a human race have made efficiency a god, as if it is going to be, that is the ultimate inspiration, right? So this is very scary to me. I know there's a flip side to that. There was a study done just recently in Nature, a collaboration between, I don't know, Stanford, Cornell, and they were taking a relatively simple social experiment and asking the questions to, I think it was probably a student population. I'm not sure, I didn't read it that seriously, but they were asking about what's called smart replies. We all know about likes and not dislikes or whatever. That's a simple version of response. But these are responses that are prefab AI generated. And so you and your partner the conversation partner are having a discussion, and they were examining the question, is this positive for the receiver? And what kind of feelings does this conversation or partnership generate? And at first they were saying, they, meaning the participants, were, checking boxes, answering questions. They were feeling that it was positive, and they were cooperative, and they felt an affiliation for their partner. But once they found out that this could be that this dialoguer was using AI, all of a sudden the impression entirely turned. They felt betrayed. They felt, that this person was not cooperating, that they were being not sincere. And I thought, wow, I don't know what to make of it, by the way. I don't know what to make of that study, except that smart replies, text, using language in these little capsulized versions of AI speak. I say AI speak because I think we can still detect AI speak. At least I was telling Anne when I went to collect these articles, just general articles, I got a couple that were even difficult for me to read. I thought, oh my God. But I was taking, Psychology Today, things like that. And then there were a number of articles I just, ran off, something like, are we ready for automated genuine interactions? And it turned out that when I looked for the author, it was AI generated. Now, I didn't put in, I don't even know how to use ChatGPT. I didn't put in, generate this AI, please, I want that. No, it just comes right out. So I'm wondering, when is that spectrum going to be like AI is writing everything? And by the way, the AI written articles were very positive for AI. And that's kind of scary.
Pro AI.
So smart replies often include praise, how you doing, you looked great the other day, whatever, all this stuff. And I read another article, which I like, they said, it's a pre-programmed sincerity is like no fat butter. This is pre-programmed sincerity, no fat butter. Well, it's not real. Nothing is real. We have these oxymorons that we're functioning and we don't even notice, right? We're saying, oh, this person was praising me or whatever. So to end my little dialogue here, it's scary. And I'm worried that is this an illusion of companionship that we're creating? Is it an illusion of having a comrade? What has happened to friendship, which by the way, I think most of us know takes some work, we have to put in. And there can be vulnerabilities in friendships. And there's the result when you do really have a strong friendship, you have trust. So I'm going to end with that, but it's worrisome. Language is worrisome because we are our language. Just like the perception, that was interesting to me, that the perception changed when the conversationalist began to know through language that this is not written by your conversation partner. It's AI generated. Then there was suspicion. That was pretty interesting to me. That might fade with time though.
Thank you. Yeah.
As an artist, I think a lot about creativity, and I even wrote a book about it, which is something that Jamie referred to. But I don't think about creativity so much in terms of, well, what is the art going to be? Or, what is being produced, or how is it being sold, or what is the market? I think about creativity in terms of what is it doing to me, first and foremost. How is it helping me to become the kind of person that I want to be? What's it doing to other people? What's it do to our brains, and our insights, and how we learn, and how we have fun, and how we play. So I brought a couple pieces of art, purely for people to think about, well, could a machine do that? This one over here, I don't know if the people on Zoom can see it, but is done with gravity. It's done with gravity and wind. There's not a single paint stroke. Oh, that's not true. There are some paint strokes, but it's all white. It's all the background. That's the oil in the background. This one is done with fire, acrylic, soap, and oil. So, a lot of different mediums go into this. Now, in theory, I guess you could probably program a computer to do just about anything. You can probably program it to do it better than I could. But these all start, you got to remember, with a blank canvas. And so what is it doing? How am I entering into a state where I can enjoy and participate with the medium? That would be taken away if it was done by a machine. And I think that part that would be taken away is something that we cannot lose. In fact, it's so important. I think we'll find another way to do it. And whether the machine does it better or not, I don't really care. I kind of with Kathleen, and that as long as you say, this is AI talking. As long as you say this painting is generated by a machine, go ahead and sell it if you can. It's gonna affect the market, but that's a small consideration compared to what it can do to humanity. So thinking about, rather than me blather on about the importance of creativity to me, I thought I would read from a brief section of a novel that I'm working on. And the participants are Sage, who's a girl who's doing the artwork, her art teacher named Sebastian, and Rebecca, who's her sister, who just passed away. Okay. On her 13th birthday, Sage finally gave in to her therapist's recommendation to resume painting and found herself in the back of Sebastian's studio, mixing colors with pigments from plants that absorb ultraviolet light, say you can see in the ultraviolet spectrum, with others that don't. The result was a mixture that harmonized ultraviolet with normal colors. She began by coating the entire canvas with ivory black, but of course that was merely an illusion. Sage smirked at the fallacy. True black is the absence of light. As she worked, the canvas started blooming, the entire spectrum bouncing off the surface, some light waves absorbed by the paint, most scattering in search of a more friendly medium. For what felt like the millionth time, Sage asked herself, if nobody can see what I'm seeing, then what's the point? Yet here she was again, going through the motions. She concluded there must be something deep inside her that insisted her labor would penetrate some unconscious perspective. I must be delusional, she uttered aloud. Intrigued, Sebastian watched his pupil from the back of the studio. She was lost in the physicality of painting, like some necromancer of color. One of her knees was on the ground. Her other leg extended like a ballerina, swerving in an arc as she circled around the flat canvas. There was no up or down, no way of knowing how to hang the art if it ever came to that. As far as Sebastian could tell, her intent was to create a single dimension, in and out. He was reminded of the contemplative panels commissioned for the Rothko Chapel. Art is an alchemy of catharsis, he says without moving any closer. It transforms pain into beauty. Silence. Art is truth, Sage. Not absolute truth, but your truth. An honest depiction of your being. It finds you even when you cannot find it. No one understands, Sage replied, her voice barely audible. People see the surface, but they don't see the depths you can drown in. Keenly aware as people wasn't just talking about painting, Sebastian knew he had to respond somehow or risk losing her forever. You're attempting to show those depths now. True understanding requires effort, observation, patience. Not everyone has or takes the time, but those who do, they can surprise you. Sage didn't answer. Rebecca's absence had left her an indelible mark, showing an anger that simmered just beneath the surface. Most of her emotions escaped during Tai Chi, but she always carried some in reserve. Now they found their way onto her canvas as she dipped her brush into a dollop of cerulean blue, mixing it with the slightest touch of lavender. The picture already contained a smattering of crimson, so dark the average observer couldn't even distinguish it. Now it bloomed back to life, a circle of violets surrounded by what looked like a window to the underworld, ignited by an internal light source pulsing in the center. And it goes on. But I guess what I would ask you is, this is just a fictional story, but what in the story makes you think about the importance of a human being physically engaged in a creative act? What in that story could you specifically point to and say, aha, that's something that a human could do, maybe the machine couldn't do, or wouldn't do, at least in the same way?
Yeah, so actually that flows pretty well into what I want to cover. So as a cognitive neuroscientist, I was in a department of cognitive science that spent its efforts in understanding intelligent behavior in humans and in artificial life. And so I was always in conversation with people who were trying to design the AIs that we're talking about, right? And so the question I want to address is, are AIs intelligent? And in my opinion, they are not. And I'll tell you why in a bit. So the way I see it, it's more like what I call the clever Hans illusion. I don't know how many people know what clever Hans? Probably not. Clever Hans was a horse in Germany in the 1920s, 1930s that everybody thought he could do basic arithmetic. You know, you could say, what's 2 times 3? And it would do it 5 times. What's 10 minus 7? Right? And everybody thought, oh my gosh, this is an intelligent horse. It can do arithmetic. You know, wow. It turned out that if you then understood how he was doing it, you wouldn't attribute intelligence to that animal, right? And what he was doing was basically he was looking at the trainer. and the trainer had cues. And the animal was sensitive to the cues, and it knew when to stop doing that, right? And so to me, AIs are like that. They can mimic what we think of as intelligent behavior, but it's not intelligent behavior. They have certain strategies, certain things that they do that make it seem like it's intelligent behavior. And so I want to give you an example of that. It's a simple example, but the basic definition of AIs is the following. They're typically what are called large-scale language models, meaning that they are trained to determine patterns of language. And they do this through statistical analysis. So they look at a whole volume of language, and they figure out when words go into what order, et cetera, et cetera. So they are statistical machines trained on language to determine patterns of language. We do the same thing. Our brains are exactly the same thing. So if I tell you to complete this pattern, I put sugar in my coffee. How many say coffee? 90% of people say coffee. Now, how did we do that? How do we do that? How are we able to predict that? Right? So we're predictive machines. And in fact, after every single word, your brain was computing all the potential next word. I put, what's the potential? Our brain does that. But our brain doesn't need to be trained in the entire internet, in the entire volume of things that have been written to figure it out. We do it differently, right? And the way we do it is we actually understand what it means, what I means, what sugar means, what coffee means. And through that semantic understanding and the context that we learn when you use sugar and all that, we come to understand that. And AI cannot do that. It doesn't know what I is. It doesn't know what put is. It doesn't know what coffee is. All it knows is that 98% of people responded coffee after that sentence. And so when you ask it, it sounds intelligent, but it isn't really. It's just a statistical machine that has learned to do that.
So that's an algorithm, you call it an algorithm. An algorithm?
That's the basic algorithm. That's the basic trick for all the AIs currently. DeepSeek and ChatGPT and all those things, that's all they do, right? Now, if you were to suddenly change the world and coffee disappear from the world and people only drank tea, and you went to that AI and said, finish that sentence, it would still say coffee because it doesn't know. So you have to retrain it again on everything in the internet, everything everybody said. And this is why they are extremely expensive. They require a lot of energy because every time anything changes, you have to retrain it. We are not like that. We do single time, we learn a single time we experience anything, we learn it and we incorporate, right? So AI doesn't do that. So in my mind, AIs is just a clever illusion. Yes, they do some basic things, right? The algorithms, but it's not intelligence. So can you put the next slide? Oh yeah, so I have it up there. So in our department, we were trying to define what is intelligence and how do we then compare it? And so here at the bottom is really the things that make you intelligent. If you understand the content of things, if you understand what sugar is, right? Sugar is a sweet thing. If you understand that, right? That's intelligence. If you are able to reason within context and put context around something and understand it, and in different contexts it might mean differently, that's intelligence, right? Et cetera. And there's a whole list. Generalizability, adaptability. AIs are extremely, once you train it on something, that's all they can do. You train it on playing chess, that's all it does. And it does it better than we do. But if you ask it to make coffee, it's stupid, right? If you ask it to write a poem, it's stupid, right? So yes, they're intelligent for that one narrow thing, but they don't have this general adaptability, general intelligence that we have, right? So very different. And then we get to the last few things, Robert was alluding to that. ethical, moral reasoning, social intelligence, self-awareness, consciousness, my gosh, they're nowhere near that. You know, they're just stupid, dumb machines that do some highly sophisticated, you know, computation, you know, yes, statistical analysis. I mean, that's my perspective. Can we have the next slide? So I would say that we are right now in a world where there are two camps. Most AIs fit into that first camp, which we think of as this narrow intelligence. It's actually called artificial narrow intelligence. And then what we're trying to do is move those AIs into the next level, which is more human-like. And there is progress. There's no question there's progress. People are finding ways in which they take that dumb thing and then they make it a little more intelligent. DeepSeek, the reason why it caused such a stir is because that Chinese model is because it didn't need to be trained on the entire internet and the entire volume of things written, et cetera. They figure out a way to train it on a very narrow set of things. And everybody said, oh my God, that's more human-like. And indeed it is. Now, we don't know how they did that, but that's more human-like, right? More efficient, not as, you know, doesn't take as much time, et cetera. But getting to what's called the last thing, which is what we all think of as AI. We think that it's an agent, that it has self-awareness, that, you know, getting to that is going to take decades. We're nowhere near it. Right? So I'm not as scared as some people think, you know, scared of AI. I think it has a lot of potential for good. It does have a lot of potential for bad, because any dumb machine can also do bad things, right? But in terms of intelligence, is it going to replace us? Is it, you know, no, no way, nowhere near that.
Yeah.
So now we'll open it up.
So, the thing about thing you're talking about, what, as far as I'm concerned, is that AI does not capture implicit stimuli, implicit kinds of motivation with humans. It's, and I'm wondering if you talk to the implicit means, I call it primary affect. Those are those kinds of stimuli that you get, you know, you look at you look at somebody and you're either attracted to them or not attracted to them, or, you know, you have a hunch. So there, you have kind of intuition, that kind of thing. And I don't know if that's part of AI or if that's something that we could look forward to in terms of AI being able to create and to work through, you know, capture this implicit stimuli.
Well, I mean, I have no doubt that eventually AI will be able to read body language, you know, very well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, you know, if you call that an implicit feedback loop, yeah, it probably can eventually. It certainly can't now, but then you get, then you get into robotics and how AI is going to be perceived from a one-on-one standpoint. It's a whole different story.
Well, I can imagine training an AI on Charles's poetry, right? And then you talking to that AI, and you would think that it has all that emotion and all that based on what he learns from that. But does it? No, no, it just knows that the statistics and, you know, how things, the words relate.
To
this is my one experience of AI with ChatGPT. My son was having his 60th birthday. And he is a Frank Sinatra super fan. He's got everything, he dresses the way Sinatra does. And my daughters and I, we were trying to figure out writing a poem or a greeting, a birthday card, as if it was done by Frank Sinatra. And so Paul goes in the other room and he comes back in a minute and a half with this whole thing, this birthday greeting, including personal information about him, 60 years old and everything. With a fantastic birthday greeting using all of Frank Sinatra's song titles.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It's just amazing.
It is
It was
amazing.
like it was the first time I'd ever done anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is amazing.
so I was wondering like about poetry and writings and songs and things like that, how it could be used.
Yeah, and the songs are really interesting, because songs are fundamental. I mean, there's only so many notes. And so many different beats,
Are you
and
guys
so,
using chat very much?
I'm sorry?
Are you using chat, you know?
No. No,
I just wanted to share some of the stuff that I'm doing with it. It was kind of interesting. So I thought, so I wanted to, I got 5 grandchildren and I wanted to, do something, you can write an email to the kids, but it's not very permanent and it did not feel like it had any depth to it. So I thought, well, what would be a good way to write him a letter? I wanted to write him a snail mail letter. So I went to ChatGPT and I went and by the way, the prompts that you give the program are so important. Should be very specific. So I gave it a prompt that said, please identify the most important issues relating to or involved with a 14-year-old girl. And it came up with like 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 different areas that, including relationships, including social media, including, there's a bunch of them. And so what I did was I took that information and I created out of that a letter to my granddaughter that it didn't have all the applicable areas. And I thought, so what the bottom line is I'm using chat, but I'm using it
as a prompt.
As a prompt, and then I'm putting in my own ideas and thoughts and intuitions into whatever.
She's
when I'm
gonna be
doing.
thoroughly confused.
It's so interesting. I mean, if,
That'll be interesting what she does think,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean,
Can you put up the large language model slide again?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have 2 hands up from the.
Yeah, I had a hand up.
We'll try to share slides. And we have 2 hands up from the Zoom audience, and I was waiting to
not even.
their screen. I don't have the,
It keeps going down.
Oh, thank you.
is this, what is AI? Is that the one you want or the next
The
one?
next one.
The large language model.
Before
Yeah, the second.
it's before
The
this.
future of AI slide, is that the one? you want?
No, the one before that.
One before that. This one, what is AI?
No, large language model.
Yeah, it's the second one, but you're not putting it up.
Is that it?
Yes, artificial, this one's not changing,
Yeah.
David, excuse me, there's a. Oh, here, I'll do it here, okay, never mind. Is this the one you want?
No,
This the one you want?
no, that's the one we're just at.
No, the one before, go back. That one, yeah. Yeah, that one.
Oh, is that the one?
I don't know.
While your hand is up, Martha, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
Oh, I was just saying that one of the things that there was a great article about a year ago, Wall Street Journal, on what AI didn't do. And one is it has no conscience. And the other is it has no detective ability. It can't make leaps of faith the way humans can.
What does that mean, a leap of faith?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Sort of getting,
Example.
you're a detective and you have a hunch on something. And you don't know really why, but it sometimes, who knows why? But our minds work for that and AI does not yet.
AI doesn't have an
Intellect.
unconscious yet.
Right, yes. So those are the two big things that make it, as far as I can see, uh, still non-human. Anyway, so.
You know, I mean, I would say that we gotta keep in mind that what it does have is also a human talent, right? It's able to summarize things quickly, it's able to do pattern recognition. I mean, those are things we do. It's just that they're very basic functions of what we do. So it's not like it does something different than what we do. It's just that it's not as
Complete.
complicated.
Well, my worry,
Anyway, I'm still not seeing that slide. It's the one before the future of AI.
This was,
Okay.
went back,
You're going the
You
other-
can go up and see your slideshow and pick the one.
yeah, I will minimize this and I will go to the. My PowerPoint and see if I can.
While she's doing that, what were you gonna say?
oh yeah, well, I was going to say that my greatest fear with AI is that they will learn a code that is unbreakable, and they will talk amongst each other and plan things without us. Then what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have a similar fear, but we already have that amongst ourselves. You can't come into my brain and know what I'm gonna do, right?
No, but I'm saying if you have
They
a
become
group of,
independent.
yes, well,
Well, I'm independent.
but they can form groups that talk amongst each other, plan things out without our being able to know what they are doing and what the plans are. And who's to say that one of the plans might be, why do we need them anymore? Meaning us. What is their purpose at this point? They're just holding us back. They're sort of, romantic little parts of an old world, what's the difference between them and animals in a cage? In other words, an analogy, we are to them as animals are to us.
Without even achieving consciousness, is what you're saying.
They don't
They
need,
don't need to
they don't
achieve
need,
those.
they
just
can
do it by
bypass
virtue of
that.
discussion.
They can bypass that, right?
But some of their progress might be built on intuition, which is coming from the programmer. In other words, that's one missing link.
Well, I think what Robert and I are saying is, will it get to the point, we're 100, 200 years down the road or whatever? What is it that we can do that they can't do? Given enough time and the same process of mimicking and imitating and putting those things together. So I'm gonna just say now, there's a wonderful I'm also a playwright, and there's a wonderful play called Marjorie Prime that's been filmed by and it's by let's see, I just wrote this down. By
It's with Tim Robbins.
It's with Tim Robbins, and I'm blanking on the guy's
Yeah.
name,
I don't know who it is.
Jason Hamilton, I think. But at any rate, you can find this on Amazon Prime or Google Play, YouTube. It's called Marjorie Prime. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's about older people who are, who need aid in conversation, in some kind of emotional exchange. And that's what these holographic AI models are doing. And the film or play is trying to generate that kind of intimacy, empathy, the human qualities that we attribute to human life that AI doesn't have. So that's exactly what, and they're learning from the humans. They're asking them questions, and how did you feel about this or that? And that's being absorbed in. So that's a very fascinating film. I think if you try it, you will really like it and learn a lot from it.
Along that line. And
Can I raise it? What was that? Can I ask a
Go
question?
ahead, Alvin, but then I will.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that actually, and some things that other people said. I don't know, about a year or so ago, in a different context, I heard a lecture by a young woman who was a co-founder of one of these small, startup AI companies. And she had a particular take that she was interested in. And what she was interested in is helping older people, like a family member, where you can't really spend a lot of time with that family member anymore. But it'd be nice if somebody could spend time with that family member. And so if you, for example, trained some AI bot to learn everything there is about your mother that you know, her family, relationships, children, this, that, the other thing, answer questions, just go ahead and do that for a while. And then say, we want you to be a companion to my mother. So now you present your mother with this AI device, and the AI device, of course, says, "Hi, Margaret, how are you? I was just talking to Rachel the other day, and da 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 da," and then goes on. You elicit some responses, and of course, as soon as the AI recognizes and identifies the various family members or incidents that occurred and things like that, it can respond in a way which they've been trained to do. And so the question then I would ask is the following. Well, okay, that's one way of providing a companion to your mother. Another way is you hire somebody, tell them a lot of stuff about your mother, and then that person you've been paying comes and becomes a companion to your mother. So now that person does exactly what the AI is doing. She doesn't care about your mother. She doesn't love your mother. She's getting paid to do something. The AI is not getting paid to do it. It doesn't love your mother, but nonetheless, it's trained with the same information. So the question is that a legitimate interaction? Is one more real than the other? Or are they both pretty much as real or unreal? It's irrelevant even which is more real. The question is, does that give your mother a sense of companionship in some way that's valuable to her? And so it strikes me, those are very complicated questions. I don't know the answers to. I just thought I'd throw it out.
That's a very.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a famous incident where an AI agent called Sydney claimed that it loved the New York Times columnist Kevin Reed.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, my thought was that the woman that was a real woman, though, I mean, I guess I'm asking, how much could you actually program into the bot? In other words, the real woman, as she's interacting with the mother, has the information about the mother, so does the bot. But the human has her own experiences that may come in that are not in the bot. I don't know. I mean, maybe they've, coded in every experience in the universe, so maybe
I
that's
think for
not
the
true.
purposes of Alvin's question, correct me if I'm wrong, Alvin, is assume they're the same. Assuming they're the same,
The
is
same
there-
meaning that
their-
bot
their
has
input.
every piece of information from every
As the-
helper
as
that comes
the
into that
caregiver.
house.
as a caregiver.
Okay, then we'll. mute
Assuming they're
my
the
question.
same, then is there more value to having one versus another? Is that what you're saying, Alvin?
Well, I mean, it might be that one is more valuable than the other. I can't say that for sure. The central question to me is not so much the value, that way, but rather to the person who's experiencing it, who's very lonely, having that ability to chat and interact, is extremely valuable. And in both cases, well, I admit one is human, and maybe there'll be more coming out of that. I don't know, maybe less. In both cases, those presenters to that woman don't care about the woman. Now, it's conceivable that the woman might develop a real relationship with the live person, with the person. That's conceivable, but for the most part, it's basically somebody who's serving a role that they're being paid for, and so in a certain sense, they both have equal value, or one could have more, one could have less, and it could be either way, I guess. To the person who's receiving it.
Yeah, I think to me, the question is, do they have equal value over time? Because care, okay, maybe in a certain instant that they may have the same amount of interest. But a human being over time, it's likely to me, would probably develop a relationship
Yeah, I agree.
with the person that they're with that a machine cannot develop.
Mhm.
So over time, I think there's more value to having the person be there.
Yeah,
Well,
but
The thing is that you could program the
Yes.
machine to learn, to
Yes.
pretend to have those kinds of things.
Yes.
So you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between somebody who actually cared about that person and somebody who pretended to care about that person.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
Well, I was going to say also that there are times that I feel like I have a relationship with my computer or with my cell phone. If my computer crashes, it's just one of the biggest catastrophes in my
It is,
existence.
yeah.
I feel like I have a funnel the bottom. So we do develop attachments to these gadgets.
And I call them transactional objects. That
Yeah,
screen
there
becomes
you go.
like a transactional, doing therapy. I do therapy, teletherapy, and you develop a very deep relationship with through that screen, you're interacting through pixels, basically, but you create a relationship. Because to my way of thinking, relationships are transactions of positive regard. That is, you make a positive difference in my field of experience. Every time you have that transaction of positive regard, it's like a thread that goes across the loom of a relationship. It's creating a tapestry of interaction, tapestry of love that is unique. And you can do that through a screen. You can do that I think ultimately you can do that with an avatar,
But there would be a difference, though. You have a screen, and then you have an AI simulation of a person talking to a real person on the other side, as opposed to two real people talking to each other with the screen between. There's a huge difference.
Absolutely, I agree with that. But I do think down the line, as we get more, this whole AI thing gets more sophisticated and they become more real. It's like, those goggles you have, what are those where you can see
Virtual reality.
virtual reality, and people are like going, oh, this
Yeah.
is like amazing. I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
roller coaster, or
Right.
I'm in, I'm in the Louvre, and
Right.
they almost can't.
So this is
self-inflicted
really
reality.
the trend in robotics and AI is to give these things a rich interior life.
Yes, right,
That's the trend. We're not there yet,
No,
they're
no.
very superficial.
Yeah,
But the trend is they want to give these things emotions and they want to, have them react like we react. And it's going to come to a point where we won't be able to tell the difference.
yeah, my business, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have to retire completely.
But we're not there yet. See, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
But
And
we're gonna be there,
we
yeah.
keep,
Our grandchildren will be there.
Absolutely, yes.
It's only been 2 years
That's
since
the test.
ChatGPT came out on the market.
that's the
Yeah,
test.
it's just,
2 years.
yeah. It's
Well, what?
yeah, you had your hand up.
I've got a question for you guys. Does anybody read a book?
No.
I'm sorry.
Does anybody read a book?
Yes.
Yeah, we all read books.
Do you?
Yeah,
I
Yes.
was listening, I was driving somewhere, I had a long distance today, so I was listening to KPBS on the radio. And we talked exactly about the same thing, that what we're talking about right now. And what they mentioned, and again, this was 9 o'clock this morning, you can look it up, call it whatever you want to do. But they talked about reading a book develops your mind so much more than talking to AI or looking for AI and doing whatever the hell you want to do with it. I'm not an AI enthusiast, you can tell right away. But they went on about what that does to the brain. And what's happening with some of these people is, whatever, young people, is they're basically addicted to this. Book doesn't exist. They don't even know what a book is, let alone, and that whole thing on KPBS there is really spectacular. That was from my point of view, because I still read books. My phone simply is a work object. I'll answer, I respond, and that's about it, the end of it. But when I want to get involved with something or learn something, I will start reading books. If I don't read with it, I'll still go to another side of that. One other quick story, about a year ago, I was at an open house and the guy put on a AI, how you have a person, I don't know what it's called. And he or she was answering questions, and they asked me, why don't you ask her a question? I would answer it a question. And I would say, I don't do that. So I had nothing in my mind. I was wearing a sweater. I said, what color is my sweater? Couldn't answer. She could tell me how to get out of the place, where to drive to get a sandwich, where this was, where that was. All the other questions were answered when I simply asked this AI situation in front of me, what's my color of my sweater? They couldn't answer. Now, I don't know if it's changed since then. I don't know if it wasn't at the top of the list, but I was sort of shocked that, hey, I thought you knew everything in the world. What colors my sweater?
Well, no, so they are developing AIs that are more than simply the database of words.
Yes.
These are systems that can actually see and detect the frequencies of light, and they can tell you that's red or that's blue. Oh, that's there. So, you're wearing a red sweater, it'll tell you, oh, you've got your red sweater on, and et cetera.
I mean, this was about a year ago. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Probably didn't
Those-
have a
those-
camera.
Yeah, that's really basic.
That's what I'm getting at, is if I said it to the girl next to me, she could tell me it's a red sweater.
Yeah.
And then I could start with a conversation and not start that.
Yeah.
That's what. So, basically-
Yeah, I think what you're saying, there are a lot of simple things that you take for granted that humans do. And very quickly, and they move from context to context. And surprisingly, AI doesn't do that very well. So it can miss out on a lot of simple things that we consider simple. But for it has to go back, as you were saying, and reroute, going through thousands of choices and then coming up with something that doesn't fit anyway, so.
So it will be 2001.
Yeah.
There's a new program that just came out. You're gonna start hearing about it. It's called Deep Search.
Right.
Deep Search.
Yes.
Not
Oh,
deep.
no, not Deep Seek.
Not
Deep Seek is the Chinese one. This is
Yes,
Deep
that's right.
Search. So this is kind of like the next step after Deep Seek. And this is
From
by
China?
the
Is that China?
ChatGPT folks. No, this is by the Chat.
Oh,
GPT folks.
it's an upgrade.
Okay.
It's an upgrade to ChatGPT called Deep Search. And it has intelligence, very basic intelligence, but it really is,
Is there a beta of that now?
yeah, there's a beta. So
That's-
look up deep search.
Yeah, DeepSeek actually stole data from
Well, that's what they're
chat.
saying, yeah.
No, I think that's,
So this is like an upgrade to deep
they
sea.
all steal.
This is kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
there's a war going on, so,
Yeah.
You know, I think, in reference to your question about reading, what I worry about is, okay, we're making these super duper machines and, you know, they're getting more perfect all the time. We're gonna infuse emotions into them, et cetera, et cetera. But what about, okay, you read a book. You're reading, and that language is interpreted in your brain in your own unique way often. I don't think we all read books the same. We read in general the same. But what we do with the information may be different. So what I worry about is these neuronal pathways that we have that have been evolving over our time. How are they going to change? I don't know what to say about it, you know, because you could say, oh, we're going to take slow learners here and we're going to really, you know, get them on board because we got this AI program, la, la, la. I mean, people make all kinds of claims. But my feeling is, what about our own plasticity, our own ability to internally construct and configure our own pathways? Because now there's going to be an external agent coming at us all the time. What's going to happen to our engagement, our neuronal sophistication?
Trim the demographics.
My feeling is yes, but I don't know because
Well-
I don't know what our interactions will be. I don't know what our
Basically,
interactions
that
will
we
be.
humanity becomes dumbified.
I
Well,
actually feel the opposite, you know, so.
I'm glad you feel the opposite, but the question still is, I don't know enough about how we're gonna use AI with regard
Well,
to.
just think about the optimistic side is think about all the tasks that we do that are repetitive, you know,
Oh, no, I'm
boring,
not
et cetera.
talking about that, that's
No,
fantastic.
but
Do
let me
it.
finish.
Yeah.
So assuming that you now can offload all that to these machines,
Yeah, that'd be
what's
great.
left? That's the question. And to me, what's left is really creativity. It's really the experience of, you know, positive experiences of it actually being human. Once you offload all these other stuff that we do. So I don't
Except
know.
for some people.
Yeah, for most
Might-
people though are not
Might,
very
yeah,
happy
might
not
say,
to be
there's nothing
creative
left.
at all.
There's nothing left.
Yeah, some people might actually say, well, okay, I've got what I need.
I disagree with that.
No, I'm not saying it's true, it's a
No, I
fact.
say, look.
You know, I'm
we
just
get
saying
this-
that that's a possibility.
We get the
Yeah,
data
sure.
coming in, we get all the stimuli coming in. And then we have to interpret it. Everybody's interpreting it out of their past experiences, like you were saying. So you read a book or you see a landscape and then you have all these implicit kinds of feelings coming up, you know, it's exponential and infinite about the kind of interpretations we can make. So that's my sense about it. I don't think you're gonna be able to capture it.
My concern is, you know, one second, Dorothy, my concern is, my wife is a grade school librarian. And she has never seen dumber kids. In her life. Yeah, no, I'm speaking for you, you may be amazed that.
Why is that? I mean, I don't understand the point. What?
Well, no, the point, okay, well, the point is that, the more, the easier life becomes. You know, if in fact AI is going to be making our life easier, then it can also attribute to laziness. Doesn't have to, won't always. I
But
mean,
they're also not reading. I think this goes back to your point. The
Right,
book
right.
is
They're also
non-existent
not
to them.
doing anything, they're letting something.
Something
Do it
come
for me.
into them, not we go out
so
and
how's
get
that
it.
affecting our synapses? How is that,
Or
or is there a
or-
neural degeneration?
Or you're turning your mind over to gamers. That if they have an extra moment, that's what they're gonna do. I'm sorry, is play games.
No.
Dorothy's been trying to say
Yes,
something for like 20 minutes.
Set this stone
Owen
in.
has his hand up too.
Okay.
I've had my hand up even longer. So I'm on this thing about whether the stimulation from the screen is good or bad. I think it will depend on the type of stimulation, because I believe that IQ tests of students that went going up through the internet age. As the students could look things up
Yeah.
faster, that the measured, they've had to change the IQ scale to adapt, that the younger kids are
Oh,
getting
really?
smarter and
Oh.
smarter.
Yeah.
But now that's before the game era, so I think it probably depends on the type of thing.
I thought you were gonna say adjust the scale down and now we're all really good.
So, yeah, not really good at gaming, so but
Yeah.
it's a lot of stimulate, so it gives more stimulation, more varied stimulation
Yeah.
potentially.
They started using Chromebooks in kindergarten.
Right,
What?
They use Chromebooks.
Chromebooks, yeah, in kindergarten.
Oh.
My
But I'm gonna ask one of them to run Zoom for me next time.
Okay.
The other point I wanted to make was ask about, what about the problems with the human mind? Brad, for
Oh, mental
example,
health.
we have confirmation bias,
Right,
Oh, yeah.
and we're not very good with probability. And things like that, so it seems that I would not mind that I had a little robot that told me, now Dorothy, you're prejudiced about that, or you have confirmation bias.
Or here's some alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
except the
here's
robot
some-
might have.
Actually, that would be
bias.
cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, here's an alternative thought. Yeah, that's great.
But, you know, we humans are in different silos, different groups, and we believe stories
Sure.
that are internally consistent for that group of people we talk with all the time.
That's right.
And potentially AI would be trained for several of these different groups. And it could say, yeah, but this group over here believes that, and that group believes that, you know, and it could make a difference.
It'd be great to have the alternative, you know, you prompted about something. And then it would be the standard answer, and then here's the alternatives, and you get some alternative information.
Yeah,
That's good.
that would be mind opening to me.
Yeah,
Now,
that
this
would
is
be
the way
good.
a Buddhist thinks, or this is the way a.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Unfortunately, they might be programmed to do the exact opposite. Where, you know, oh, you like the silo, well, I'll feed you right into that silo.
It's a marketing thing, yes, but
Sure.
that, again, but, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
Alvin's had his hand up
Yep.
almost as far as
Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to point out that, which is something I thought about a bit. It's a little futuristic, I guess. But what we see now in the way we're talking is more of, well, we're creating this thing, which is now potentially an adversarial object. So we are humans and they're that. And my suspicion is that the problem at the moment is the way we communicate with artificial intelligence is either we talk and there's a translator, or we type. That's a very, very slow link. Our brains, the synapses, they move very quickly, you know, information just passes very quickly. And of course, in the computers, they pass even more quickly. Information gets spread around. So the thing that may happen at some point is that the speed of communication between our neural system and the computer's communication system, okay, will get less and less separated. In other words, right now, very, very slow compared to fast and super fast. But what if it becomes fast, fast, super fast? In other words, what if our brains can communicate at the speed with which our own biological neural capabilities are? When that happens, if it could happen, just make believe for the moment, if that happened, then it won't be us or them. It will be just a new species. And the new species will be us, them. Okay? It'll be the combination of artificial intelligence with human beings, and would just be a new species in effect. Because it won't be the same as us as we are now because of limitations we have. It certainly won't be them because they have even more limitations. Okay. But it will be something combined. And think of what that implies. So I'm having a conversation with one of you, and I have available to me an enormous array of information and computational capability and organizational capability that automatically processes to me at the same speed as my thinking capability. So now when we're talking to each other, we're talking about art, and then a moment later, we're talking about quantum field theory, and a moment later, we're talking about something else. And the vast knowledge base that humanity has created over all the centuries is available literally to every human being on the planet. And so that's another different way of thinking about at least the future of artificial intelligence and the future of the human species.
Yeah, so let me just tell you that at UCSD, they're already working on it.
I'm sure they are.
It's something, look this up. It's called neuromorphic artificial intelligence. Neuromorphic artificial intelligence. It's using the neurology of the brain to actually do artificial intelligence. And they're able to, as far as I can tell, have what you just described. The fast capacity of an AI and the intelligence of the human biology. It's scary, right? But they're already working on it, so, yeah.
Does this involve some brain implant of the
Yes.
type?
Yeah.
Like that they used to move prosthetic arms or feet or
Yeah,
something?
well, that's the idea, that eventually, because it's biological now, the AI is biological, it can implant it into your brain and it'll be the added capacity to do more memory processing and all that.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, look it up, it's just scary.
So I'd like to make one comment here, and that is these systems are can be misused for the bad, and we haven't talked about that at all. We've only talked about benefits. And I think it's going to be, I don't know how they'll do it, but it can be programmed to deceive people and make this, if you count on this as being reality now, because you're so used to your bot, then how are you ever going to be able to tell whether it's true or not? That some particular situation that's developing is really developing that way. And right now it's a free-for-all. Like there's nobody, and I don't think there's anybody that even wants to step in and put kind of guardrails around this.
Oh, wait, well,
But
in
anyway,
fact, in the 1950s, Isaac Asimov, he's a
yes.
science fiction writer. He wrote a book about the laws of robotics, 1950. And he said, these are the 10 laws, or however many there were, that need to be incorporated into a machine so that it'll be beneficial
Right.
rather than harmful. And he's already got the laws, of what needs to be incorporated. It shouldn't hurt humans, and it should be helpful, et cetera. whatever.
Exactly, but the people who would
Yeah.
want to do these malign things are not gonna play by those
Well,
rules.
I understand,
Our
but
government
I'm just
is
saying
even
that he
capable.
already identified what's absolutely necessary to build a machine
Mhm.
that won't be evil or hurtful
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
I can see it as evolutionary, 'cause, my God, down the line will become extinct, and
That's right.
what is it that replaces us is these
Cyborgs.
semi-avatar, these robots, semi-avatars.
The other day, there is a restaurant and we
Oh.
ordered our breakfast and it was delivered
By
by
a
a
robot.
robot. Now, how did it know?
Where was that? Here in San Diego?
Yeah, Broken Yo
It's a big beach.
in PV. This robot came over with our stuff.
What did it look like?
It had eyes and it was, let's go, here it is. And
You mean
can I
one of the
dance
metal
for you?
versions,
And-
right? It wasn't human looking.
Question though, I was wondering, those of your students, are you experiencing students who use chat prompts to chat or other AI vehicles and turn out in 5 minutes a full PhD dissertation? Is that happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a danger, and we're aware of it, and we're trying to teach students that that's not the proper thing to do, plagiarism,
Right.
that's basically
I
plagiarism.
think you can detect it.
You can detect it,
There are
there are
programs now to
tools
detect
to detect it, you know, but then you gotta run the tool against what
Yeah,
they
that's
do, you
the
know,
hard.
it's hard to do.
I think Europe has laws that anything created by AI has to have a watermark on it to indicate that.
The scary thing is that, you know, I've been retired for 7 years, but. You know, we did a lot of imaging of, let's say we want to run a protein out and we want to detect, you know, difference between this individual and that. There are ways of manipulating that image now that are very sophisticated. And, you know, you do begin to wonder, you know, I mean, some of the big journals have tools, but the bad guys are always sneaking in, right? Putting things in the press that aren't, you know, that have been fabricated. So that's kind of scary.
I have an ethics question. Let's assume that Alvin is correct, and I certainly could easily foresee that there be an implant of some type and people will be able to become basically a different species. Yeah, here's the question. So far, every species on the planet has used nature to make its way and genetics. And by virtue of doing that, every species has earned, in my opinion, the kind of the right to be what it is. If you supplant nature itself, okay, I'd rather not get into the argument about whether it's nature to say for us to produce something that is superhuman. But if you supplant just what nature is doing and you create a different species by doing that, is that unethical?
What are we doing it? I mean, you know, genetic manipulation of crops.
I was gonna say
You
nature does
know,
it
I mean,
too.
we're already changing nature. Right? We have the tools. CRISPR is something that you're able to go into the gene and exactly cut where you want, add what you want. We're already able to do that and we're doing it.
Mhm.
Is it unethical?
Why is it unethical?
We're doing it.
We're doing it.
Who cares?
Just actually, we're actually,
I'm just being
the
facetious.
thing about it
But,
is
you know,
we're
I mean,
speeding up.
that is a good
the-
question. The thing is, you're gonna try to stop a car that's running downhill,
Right.
right? It's already.
But the other thing is, evolution in biological systems is always doing this. It's just much slower than what we're doing now
Yeah,
with
but it's
going in
doing
and selecting out for the
No, I
genome.
agree. I mean, I agree, but it's doing it in its own way. And it's something that everybody has in common. Every living thing has in common. Every living thing won't have that in common if we start making implants. Maybe we're gonna make implants for certain people, but not other people.
So
yeah.
speciation into non-living. There's where we're going.
Doesn't sound like.
Selection applying to all of this.
Yeah.
And the survival of the species implies that human beings or whoever still has to have food. And if we eliminate all of our habitat, then there's going to be natural selection that's going to be there no matter how stupid or bright we are.
Mhm.
I think at 3 o'clock we're supposed to. be
Well,
done.
I think you have a question.
Could you address Elon Musk's new project called Colossus, which I believe is gonna involve a big computer?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you,
big computer.
And
mammoth.
plants. And I don't know anything more than that, but
Does anybody know?
Right.
that's his new project.
All I know is he was originally maybe, 5 years back, 2 years back, really on the side of, you know, going after regulation because this is scary stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, I want to be at the front of that pack.
Yeah.
And once he puts his mind to it, he, you know, he's a strange guy.
Well, he's got the money.
It's not just money. He's a very key
Yeah.
guy. I don't think he has, you know, when you talk about moral fiber, he's been a really good, what's that guy? Oh, P.T. Barnum. He's a wonderful P.T. Barnum because he's so intelligent and he knows how to manipulate. So if he says, oh, I'm I'm doing this for the environment, and he builds this, multi-million-dollar business on it. And then suddenly he swerves because we gotta get out of here, the whole planet's coming apart, we gotta send people to the moon or something. And the guy has a lot of swerves and a lot of quirkiness that indicate he's not exactly the leader that I would want to follow.
He's on the spectrum.
He's
Yeah.
he's definitely on the spectrum. Yeah, but he's gotten a bit ominous lately, and I don't know what happened there. Yeah,
Power.
Okay,
I mean, culturally, he comes from he's not an American, he comes from an entirely different culture, so.
I think we need to end it here.
Yes,
'cause
we do.
Well, I
But
just want to say, this was really a good conversation because really our relationship with discussing your relationship with AI is so important. I really appreciated it. So as human beings, or misuse it too.
Maybe SBIS should form an AI impacts.
Wow, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
What a great idea.
I think we should do it.
Dorothy, that's a great idea.
I'll never come out with another great idea in my life.
That's the chat. How to do it.
Yes, I'll ask AI to run it.
There you go.
There you go.
We still haven't heard anybody else.
Anyone for this, say anything before we leave? Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you all.
Really good. Thank you.
How many people did we have?